I like when I get on 20 minutes early. I'm sorry. I'm going to grouse about it. I'm going to do it. I got on 20 minutes early so that I can update and fix everything that's going to happen with the update to OBS. And now I just there's literally stuff I just cannot fix. I've gone on. I've downloaded all the appropriate plugin updates. Nope. I don't know which of these. I have wrote down a bunch of funny quotes from this game because I do laugh often at some of the characters' jokes and Champions of the Continent. But I'm gonna go with I'm gonna do the "It's marvelous" every time. Every time I turn my computer on these days. Episode 3, what? 326? 325? 300 something.
I'll find out. Hold on.
No, it's cool. We should just go.
Yeah,
I mean,
countings for suckers.
Michael, JJ, neither of you have Windows 11. Is that correct?
That is false.
Oh,
it's 325. I do not.
I do.
Okay, Michael. Click that little notifications area of Windows 11. You might have a Windows security notification from Sunday that says threats found.
No, I have nothing from Windows security.
Okay. Well, I guess with some builds of Windows 11, there is a recurring false positive going around on the security thing that keeps just popping up. Just keeps saying there's a problem.
What does it say is the problem?
I can click this thing if you want.
Well, I'm just saying, like, maybe he doesn't have the thing that it's...
No, so I actually looked into it because it gave me a file name, and it was like something.zy or whatever, and I Googled it, and it said, there's a big article that said, hey, Windows knows that there's a huge problem right now that says that everyone's computer's infected with this thing that's not really a thing.
Okay.
From a reliable source. It was something like USA Today or something.
Oh, no, I'm not discounting whatever source you found it from. I was just curious what the file was, but it's some non-file file.
Something.zy. Like, okay. Not a real file, basically. Man,
file extensions are a Windows construct anyway, man. In Linux, you don't have them.
Yeah. It's just been a day, man. And then OBS was giving me trouble. And then, of course, Discord never likes to work anymore. I just feel like... I just feel like Hamilton and like they gave me the wrong tires and I just can't win this way. You know? Someone give me better tires for this Windows.
I want to point out, sorry, we're talking hard turn, F1
Hard right
time,
turn.
F1 time. You know, Hamilton only has himself to blame here. George made the call to change his own tires when they were driving through the pit lane.
After Hamilton had already gone through because the plan was for both of them to stay on the same tires.
Well, George had a better plan. Why didn't Hamilton think of it?
I think the plan was, it sounded like during the race that the announcer was shocked that they let George change because the plan was clearly that George was going to hold off Verstappen from getting by him on the same tires as Hamilton, which would let Hamilton get farther ahead after the restart. Instead, that put George behind Verstappen, and Verstappen, of course, dusted Hamilton the minute they allowed people to start.
Based on the entire rest of the race, ignoring what happened at the restart, right? Do you think George was going to be able to put up any defense against Max anyway?
No.
Like maybe he could have held him up exactly one lap because that would have been the amount of time it took for them to get around to the passing point again at the turn one, right?
Yeah.
Like that would have been the maximum amount of possible time he could have done it. It's like, would that one lap have made a difference? No.
Based on his earlier defensive capabilities on this track, he did not seem to know which way to put his car to block people.
Yeah, exactly. So like George was looking out for number one and not for Hamilton. So I can't blame him that much. And at which point, like Hamilton, I mean, I guess at this point, like Hamilton needed to be more skeptical of the team's strategy because he kind of felt like they were hanging him out to dry, and they kind of were. I guess they just thought that they could somehow hold on, which again feels kind of dubious.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it is dubious. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, if you both change tires, Verstappen goes to the front, right? Automatically, because you're doing a stacked tire change on two cars that are back to back. Immediately, that puts everyone behind and probably Russell off the podium for sure.
Sure.
And then you got to wonder whether or not.
But like,
either car
but if
can
Hamilton's
keep up.
if Hamilton's in front, don't you just change his tires and you let Russell, do what he can? Because they can team orders Hamilton by Russell easy, right? Just be like, Russell, let him by. Hamilton goes by, and Russell holding off Hamilton or whatever, or holding off Verstappen maybe. I don't know. Obviously, this isn't what happened. I'm not a race engineer or a racecraft guy. I don't have any of the data. And it's easy to armchair quarterback this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I could see what happened, but I don't know what the strategy calls are. Overall, it seemed like they made great strategy calls at the beginning because they knew Ferrari and Red Bull were going to go soft tire, so they went medium to try and stay out longer, and it worked out.
Yeah, well, it paid off completely, right? And the only thing that like potentially ruined it for him was that safety car, right? Not even the virtual safety car.
Michael.
Hey. Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, JJ. Maybe we'll give it a less colored. JJ, give him a clinical on exactly the situation, but not who the teams
situation
are.
as we see it unfold, or
just see
or
it,
what happened.
The situation as you see it unfold. Leave the teams.
What you
out
saw
of it.
at the time is not the same as what was actually going on, right? Like we didn't learn until later some of the things that were happening.
True,
I didn't.
True. But leave the teams out of it.
Okay, so one of the drivers, it goes. Did it start at a pit stop?
It started after a pit stop. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
the driver had a pit stop. They changed some tires. He's coming out of the pits and is like accelerating onto the racetrack and feels something weird, and he goes like, I think the tire is loose. I think something is wrong with the car. Something is bad. So he like pulls over to the side, right? And is like ready to get out of the car.
This causes an immediate yellow flag, so that cars have to slow down.
driver's out.
Right. They have to slow people down in the area where the car is because now it's dangerous, right? And the team radios back to the driver and says, we don't see anything wrong with the car. We've checked all the instruments, all the sensors. Everything says it's fine. You can keep going. And the driver's like, okay. And so then he starts going around, but he's going really slow. Like not even close back to racing speed, right?
Okay.
And goes around again, pits immediately, right? They're like, come in and check. Like, we're going to check everything. And the people in the pit now are like sticking their hands down into the cockpit and like doing all kinds of weird stuff, adjusting things.
They changed the tires.
And they changed the tires again.
Okay.
Right. Now the driver goes back out because they're like, okay, whatever the issue was, it's fixed now. The tire's good or whatever. They send him back out again. This time, they radio him. They're like, okay, stop the car. Like, it's done. Nope, you have to get out now. Like they tell him it's bad, right? So now, because of where he was in the lap this time versus the previous time, they have to bring out a full safety car. It's not just a yellow flag now. And safety cars in F1, which if you know or don't know, are the slow car drives in front and bunches the entire field back up, right? Sure. So all your pace difference and all that stuff.
If you were 30 seconds ahead of the entire field, you are now no seconds ahead.
Yeah, you're like a third of a second ahead or something, right? Like the distance between you and the guy behind you, basically. And that's And so then that's like the defining moment here at near the very end of the race.
This is the defining moment because the two Mercedes cars are working together to push Hamilton further out in front so that they can get a pit stop in without losing to the third place guy, because he also will need a pit stop.
Okay.
And he's trying to stay out longer than them. And so there's this game of chicken, basically, because if the guys in front pit too early, he will get ahead, and he might be fast enough to stay ahead, but he'll also have to pit. So as long as they can get about 11 seconds ahead of him, they think they can still win the race and keep him from winning the race.
All right. The important point here is that amount of time that you need to do the pit stop is drastically shortened during a safety car.
It goes from 21 seconds to 10 seconds. Time lost.
So before, they needed a huge window of like 21 seconds to make a pit stop at full race speed. Well, at safety car speed, it's only 10 seconds. Now, the people who pit have like a huge, essentially an 11-second advantage on people that pitted without the safety car.
Sure.
And so like now it's immediate chaos, right?
So they're 10 laps from the end of the race at this point. All the cars are playing chicken on when to change their tires. And you get hit with a safety car that essentially could mean that whoever
a bunch of people get super cheap pit
doesn't
stops.
pit loses the race. But if you've just pitted, then you don't want to pit, but you won't gain much because you'll be stuck behind the safety car.
Yeah, but also it's like one of those like prisoner dilemmas. If everyone pits, you need to pit, but if no one pits, no one should pit. Like you don't want to pit, right? Like and especially for the person in front, you can't like react to what the people behind you do.
Yeah.
So the first person goes by, and then the second guy goes into the pits. You're just like, damn it.
So the announcers are going through the game theory on all of the options right before this safety car happens of how Verstappen, who's in third, could win the race. And they're just like, well, if Mercedes just sticks to a strategy like this and they get what they need to get with this guy getting out then he just can't win the race. There's no way he can win the race if they stick to these strategies.
Wouldn't be enough time for him to catch up based on the delta he would need to do with the pit stop.
At the same time, multiple times they're talking about what tires to put on to the Red Bull car. And everyone's like, well, how are they going to get those tires on that car? They cannot pit his car. Right? They can't do it.
He would pits lose. And he would lose anyway. But like, you also then at that speed risk him being overtaken by the fourth place guy.
Yep.
Right. At which point now he may not get first. He may get second.
Yeah.
Right. Or you may get third, depending on, who you passes him.
So JJ, do you think they should ban sister teams in F1?
No, you're like creating conspiracy theory here. That is not the case, right? So
Right.
the reason Andrew didn't want me to tell you the team is the other team, the team of the driver that stopped and caused all this was Red Bull's other team, AlphaTauri, and his driver Yuki Tsunoda. The team put out statements like saying it's absurd that you would suggest this, and this is like unbelievable that you would accuse us of doing this. We would never do that, even if we received a call from Helmut Marko or whatever. Like, also, they don't call each other like that, so like that's not a thing that could happen, right?
Yeah, everybody would know if something like that had. It would not be
It seems way too convoluted too for it to be like.
But
yeah, like
but Michael,
how to engineer something like this is too hard.
But
right?
Michael, this is why I brought up the teams before we tell you what actually happened, because once you hear what actually happened, you're gonna start to be like, but maybe.
Because in the moment you see it and you're like, damn, this plays right into Red Bull's hands.
This is the only way they could have won the races. They got a safety car right now. Weird. And then they're like, no, there's no possible way. There was a safety issue. There's a problem with the car. But now we know what was wrong with the car.
Well, so there were two things, right? Number one, there was a a misapply, like the wheel, the back, I forget which wheel it was. It was one of the back wheels on Yuki's car was not correctly applied. And he could feel it when he went around a turn that the wheel was not like doing the thing right and was like, this is messed up. And the team tells him it's fine. And he's like, no, it isn't. Like,
I'm going to drive slow.
Right. And, you know, they go back to the pits and they fix it. But there was actually something more mechanically wrong with the car that they couldn't fix, right? It wasn't just that the wheel wasn't attached right, which maybe it was that also. There was something else actually wrong with the car.
Sure.
But in all of this, Yuki gets completely screwed. Andrew, did you hear the penalty he got?
Because of what he did.
Because he was, you know, I said he was getting ready to get out of the car. And as part of doing that, the first stop, right? The first time he stopped on the track.
Yeah.
He took his seatbelt off. Because he was going to jump out of the car.
Then ran the whole track.
They did the whole lap around without a seatbelt on. And they don't take kindly to folks not following the seatbelt rules. Which is why when I said they were putting their hands all in the cockpit, they were reattaching his seatbelt. Because it's one of those things, like those cars are so narrow and so tight, the drivers don't have a way to like move their arms out in such a fashion as to reconnect those seatbelts. It requires like they have to be like strapped in.
They have to be done externally.
Yeah.
It's just another in a major long string of F1 drama that has just been going since, I mean, we didn't even touch last race last week.
No, we didn't even talk about it. And, you know, the juicy Oscar Piastri stuff has finally resolved to some degree now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Ricciardo's out of a job.
And Piastri is in a job with McLaren. And the drama there, I think we talked about this before, right? This guy
talked about the
tweeted
posts,
saying like, no, I absolutely will not, you know, race for you.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have this contract. And he's like, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I
noticed that Ricardo placed like second to last this week.
Gotta feel for the guy, right? But the details that came out as part of the review of these contracts and like the, you know, basically, you know, like the arbitration board or whatever determining whose contract was valid here, make Alpine look like a clown show, dude.
Well, they got rid of the guy that actually knew how to do F1.
Yeah, I mean, Safnauer is not a bad leader, but it's like whatever's going on their like contracts team is a joke. Like they're saying, you know, they like all of this stuff comes out as part of the review of these contracts. It's like, you know, Piastri's team has the contract and they say, send it to us and we're ready to sign. Like we'll be your driver next year. Let's go. And they miss a deadline. Oh, it's coming. Don't worry. They miss another deadline. Oh, it's coming. Don't worry. It's now been like over a month and they're just like, we're just having some hangups. We're getting it ready. Don't worry. And now like Piastri's agent is like, F this, let's go look around. Shot. Like, and as soon as that happens, the McLaren guy is like, hello, yes, here's a contract you could just sign right now with me and I will give you a seat next year. You know, ignoring the Ricardo thing. And he's like, you know, it was a good enough deal for him to agree to sign it, right? At that point now he has a valid signed contract and Alpine has nothing. Why were they even trying to go to the board? What was this about? They had nothing. It made them look like clowns. It's like they had nothing and they're like trying to fight like a promise or something. What? Not, yeah. Unbelievable. Like after seeing that, I would be like afraid to race for that team. If that's how they're running things.
Oh yeah. I don't think anyone wants to be well, whatever. I mean, then you got last week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was the racetrack is very exciting there, but unfortunately, it looked like the Red Bull team had like cheat codes enabled effectively that week.
Yeah, the race wise, it was like, oh, okay, they just enabled light speed on the back of their cars.
Yeah, it's just like they turned the dial to 11 and everyone else was stuck at 8.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of good racing in that race, like in terms of like people passing each other and like stuff happening that if you just ignored the front, just kind of don't look at that. Just leave that over there. But yeah, it's been good back from the F1 break. It's been good.
Not for Haas.
No. Mick Schumacher still no contract for next year.
Yeah. Maybe Haas no contract for next year. You know what I mean?
I mean, they have Kevin Magnussen on contract, I think. So I don't think the team is going away. But yeah, I mean, will Schumacher be there? Unclear. He's done better than Magnussen in the last couple races, but their car is not looking hot.
Mm-mm. And I think yesterday they were like, so like maybe if Mick Schumacher goes to Williams, they were talking to Magnussen after the race, and he's like, what if Mick goes to Williams? Or do you think Ricardo should come to Haas? He's like, I don't know. I don't think we'd be any better.
Mm-hmm. At some point, to win races, right? It is a driver plus team situation, right? And it just looks like the engineering just isn't there at Haas, right?
Yeah.
Either they're not investing the money, or the people they have just aren't as good as the other people.
Certainly feels like it.
That sucks.
Or the money could be a thing. I mean, maybe the idea of floating some of that money from the high teams to the low teams isn't a bad one.
Well, that's other racing series do stuff like that, right? For reasons like this.
Yep.
The thing that I have heard rumors about that are the most interesting to me is that they're trying to get Colton Herta a super license.
Why?
Because he's an IndyCar champion and popular in America.
Huh.
Like 19, also like a young driver like Piastri, and would be, like there's no American drivers right now, right?
Yeah.
Zero.
I don't know that IndyCar's got a good reputation currently with some of the drivers they got over there.
I mean, there's a lot of former F1 drivers in it, so
yeah, the bad ones.
Well, the ones that wash out, right? Because they would rather stay in F1 if they could, but they can't, so they go to the next best place that has a lot more openings and a lot more teams.
I got NASCAR drivers over there crashing into everything.
But it is interesting. The former Haas F1 driver Roman Grosjean is like doing really good over there this year, right?
Not great. Okay. As far as I remember, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I keep hearing his name mentioned in terms of stuff that's been happening.
Because he's crashing into a lot of stuff.
Well, but that's just like every race. That's not.
Well,
anyway.
Speaking of sports, football's starting.
Hey.
I don't think I'm going to be playing fantasy this year, but I am excited to see the Broncos' new look. We got the Seahawk, man. The danger of Russ.
You're going to let Russ cook?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to take off in Denver. But whatever. That sounds good. I know, JJ, you haven't drafted yet, but who are you looking at this year? And Michael, how are you feeling there, Mr. Double Draft?
I feel pretty good about how I did this year. Certainly better than my drafts last year.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
Well, it was a bad sign for last year, I suppose, but
I don't know. Every draft I ever felt good about, I always was like, maybe, and it was like a middling thing. And then all the ones I felt like I was behind ended up being good teams.
So I will say, and again, I beat this drum every year.
Don't draft a kicker.
Well,
never do that.
Kickers and defenses are like things you put on your roster because you got to fill them. Kickers are nearly completely interchangeable usually.
The day before you start playing games.
Yeah, kickers I don't have a lot of opinions on. Defenses is like get one that has a good week one matchup and then see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of drafting, I think the best way to do it is to have an auction. And then, because the thing that always is like drives a lot of the conversation about fantasy football drafting is like, oh, what pick did you get? So who are you going to be able to get?
Mm-hmm.
Well, at auctions, your picks don't matter. It doesn't matter what order you go in. It's just how much you want to pay, right?
I
And
think
that's
that
a lot more
weeds.
strategy there.
I think that weeds though a lot of people out of it. I think it's more interesting for a player that has experience, but I wonder, and maybe you guys can answer this with your work situations. I know that when we had a work one and someone was kind of behind, they just stopped paying attention. They didn't care anymore. They weren't in the running, so they just stopped playing. And like the idea of a draft where it's maybe a little more random might keep more people in it longer than people in a draft who just totally screw up and their team is bad and they can't fix it.
Yeah, so in an auction, right, you have a lot more control about your team being bad, right?
Right.
If you really like a certain player, you will get that player. Right?
Yes, but that means they'll overpay for
But
players.
it comes
they
at the
shouldn't.
cost.
Yeah.
Well, that is the strategy.
And then when they're losing, they stop playing.
So that's a feature of all fantasy football.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was trying to say is that's a feature of fantasy football. I wonder if it's worse in draft or in random.
So in a way that auction or snake, I think, are the two typically how they're referred to.
Yes.
One of the ways our league has tried to combat this is there is a prize weekly for high score. And if you know anything about football, you know that which team scores the highest in a week has nothing to do about whether their team is any good
Which
week
is
to week or
why
not.
my focus in fantasy football was always to have a target score per week. And whether or not I won or lost, I didn't care as long as I made the target score.
Yeah, it's about consistency. If you want to win the season, it's about consistency. However, to keep people interested, because the award, the league costs like $20 to enter, and weekly high score is $6. If you can put up like 1 or 2 high scores, you can like nearly pay for. You get 3, you've essentially paid for your league entry, right? Now, like 3 is asking a lot, but getting 1 or 2 is not that hard. And I would say almost every team every year gets 1 at least, unless your team is just completely dumpstered. At which point, injuries or whatever, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also in a pick'em league, which operates the same way. There is both a season and a weekly prize.
But the nice thing about that one is that the weekly prize can pay you back your entry fee.
Yeah, it can, depending on, in some variable number of weeks, depending on how many people enter. Because the entrance cost, the buy-in cost for it is always the same. So the more people who are in the pool, the faster you get paid back, but also the lower your odds of winning in any given week.
Sure.
Yeah.
But interestingly, that does not always keep people from stopping playing either. By the end of the season, there are always people who basically just stop doing their picks.
I think that there is no way to fix it, right? Like when people know they have no chance, they just give up sometimes.
Yeah.
The only things you can do are, rely on people that have integrity, and specifically in fantasy where, if they stop playing, they ruin the game for other people. Now, once you get into like consolation brackets and stuff, I'm not going to like kick people out of the league for not caring about consolation bracket games.
Yeah.
However, we do have a reward for consolation bracket, and it is extremely minor, but it is not nothing. And the winner of the consolation bracket next year gets $1 extra for the auction.
Ooh.
You say that, but it's not nothing. Sometimes that $1 extra makes a difference. It lets you bid 2 on a guy that would cost 1 normally and outbid.
I think also if we're talking about like game theory of keeping people interested, the level of interest that would get me back into playing fantasy football again would be dynasty only, because that keeps people interested for next year. Because even if you're out of it this year, you'd be like, well, let's see, I'm out of it. That person's about to win, but they need a running back. Can I sell my running back that they need for a price for next year? You know what I mean? Like that
the thing,
interest level of the people that are interested in that is, I think, the only level that I would care to play anymore.
I think my issue with dynasty leagues is that you effectively create, like, you can if you have a good team, you can lose to a bunch of deals being made in the back room that just like leave you unable to compete, right?
I mean, the deals can't be made in the back room. Most of them have to be approved by the leagues or by the league
I know what you're
commissioner.
saying, but like assuming the deals are being done fairly and it's not like, just straight collusion where they're just like giving people for no reason, like no recompense or whatever, just to screw someone over.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah,
assuming there's like they're trading draft picks for next year or they're trading like auction money or something for the next year.
Uh-huh.
Like at that point, it's like, well, like I understand the trade-off here. They've mortgaged their future, but like I had the run here. I was doing well. And now I have been screwed by something I can't like afford to do. Right. I guess I can choose to mortgage my future to try and get something back somehow. I don't know. I don't like the idea of trading future picks in fantasy football.
I think that you don't allow the trades after the playoffs. So after the playoffs start. So it's not like in the middle of the playoffs you're going to lose.
Well, I think like the trade deadline in a lot of leagues is like November even.
Yeah, it is. It's several weeks before the end of the fantasy season.
So I don't think that's, I mean,
Yeah.
you
I
should
do
be
also
looking at your league in that type of league. You should be looking and being like, okay, well, I'm going to make a run. This guy's also making a run. I got to prepare,
Yeah. I think for me to be interested in a league like that, there'd be a lot more money on the line than $20.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then commensurately, like I would have to care. Like we would need people equally as dedicated, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's what this league has. But I also enjoy the ability to say like, well, that team sucked last year and this guy was awful. I don't want to see any of this person ever again. Goodbye. And I can banish him to my never draft again list.
That's a good part of it, since we're talking about the theory of it. Yeah, that's a really good part to think about.
No. Oh, everyone's in on Najee Harris this year. I got burned by so-and-so. Nope, no. And then so I just have
it's just the mental ability to wipe out all of last year's bad taste is a good one too. Yeah.
How many times did Joe Mixon break your heart, Andy?
I mean, I rode Joe Mixon to the playoffs one time. I'll just
the
say
one year
that
he was good, and then none of the other years.
Just one time.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoy fantasy football. I'm going to play again this year, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, my leagues are fun. One's with family, one's with some close college friends. So win, lose or draw, it's always a good time.
Yeah, I think the thing that I don't get about fantasy football, and I know there's a few people in my league who are really like this. They're like, we need to do doing more trades. There need to be more trades going on in this league. It's like, do we? I don't know.
I don't have anything good to say about trades anymore. I used to think the same exact thing. And then people's opinions on what is fair and what is not fair are so inconsolably different that everybody's feelings get hurt. Honestly, like I'd rather play with randoms and trades than friends and trades. I don't know. Like maybe trades should just not be allowed.
I mean, you certainly have that option in the league settings there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I've never, typically, if I've ended up with a player, I've chosen them for some sort of reason. Or you hope you did. You didn't just like get them randomly, or you picked a guy because you needed a guy. But like, I didn't pick the other guy here on the other end of this trade. So like, why am I doing this then?
Because
like injury or circumstance or whatever, right? Like
you're getting into this part of it, which is like people see 2-for-1s, right? Because you didn't pick the guy, right? But I'm trying to offer you this, that, and the other. So you shouldn't, you should never trade 1-to-1s. You should always get 2-for-1s. And like asking for trades is a great thing in leagues that allow trades because you can always upgrade your team where people think you aren't upgrading it. And like people see that. And in a lot of leagues, you have to get your league to approve it. And it's like, well, they're getting 2 players and he's only getting 1. It's like, yeah, because I'm trying to get him to trade a player he doesn't want to trade. And so, it's like. And then you start
I usually think the person winning in that trade is the person getting the 1 player. Like the person offering 2 is usually the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
depending on what they're getting, right? Like if your team just doesn't have a good quarterback and streaming isn't working this year, and you trade somebody a quarterback and a receiver for a receiver, you know, you might get them into the weekly possibility of winning or whatever, you know. But yeah, I mean, the person who's getting the one is generally the player doing better and obviously can spare the two. So,
right,
you know,
it's I don't
trades in general. I think maybe just it's better to just get rid of them.
I think my opinion on trades are well. So and then again, this is also dependent on like some of the rules in your league, right? I don't know how folks do it other leagues, but we also use like bidding for players on the waiver wire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think if you have like a waiver wire system that just rewards people to like sit on the waiver wire to like wait for a good pick or whatever, I think you need to lobby very hard to get it changed to the bidding system. Because that just adds like the funniest thing in the entire world is watching someone drop a ton of money on a free agent that they're picking up that had no other bids.
And nobody else bid on. Yeah.
Like, the guy spent $30 on this player of their $100 total for the entire season. And yeah, they just got
the next bid was $2.
The next bid was someone who bid 1 or 0.
Yep. I absolutely agree with that 100%. That's the only way to make the waiver wire fair.
Yeah. And it is the best system, right? Because and then if there's a tie, yeah, then it goes to who used the waiver wire less.
It also avoids
at that point, like
but it also avoids people that have been tanking just sort of getting access to players that they're, you know, like I've seen people waiver wire people in leagues that didn't have that, and then they sit on their bench, and you're like, oh God, you know?
Yeah, they're just like hoovering up players so that no one else can have them, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they don't even like have a player in the right spot. I've seen it all, man. I played fantasy for many years. I've seen it all.
I think that would be frowned upon pretty heavily in my league if someone is just like, you know, if you grab a guy off the waiver wire and then don't start him, I don't think there's a problem there. But if you grab a guy off the waiver wire and have a hole in your roster afterwards and then don't fill it, right, that's a problem now.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem.
That's a you not trying anymore, and that's the next year you're not welcome again problem right there.
I had two good transitions out of this. One was I've seen it all, and you said a hole in the roster. I was going to say a hole in the memory. Got a hole in my memory because I've seen it all. Spoilers. Okay, I mean, it's a couple years old, but it's hard to watch movies these days. I personally am still behind on Marvel. I have to watch Multiverse of Madness still.
Yep.
And I have to watch Miss Marvel.
Thor Love and Thunder.
And Thor Love and Thunder. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either.
And She-Hulk now is out.
Current on She-Hulk, actually.
Oh, interesting. Chose that one. Interesting. Okay.
Well, we were watching it with a family that was over, and it was like, we'll just stay current, and if we miss anything, then whatever.
Yeah, fair.
Spoiler alert. Spider-Man No Way Home. This is your last warning. Because there's nothing else to talk about in this movie except for spoilers.
Yeah, man.
I imagine that at some point in the very near future, we're going to have Ken on this podcast, or maybe it's a carbon scoring issue, to answer some of these questions. Because I think this conversation is literally just going to be, Michael, how did you feel about No Way Home?
I kind of liked it, actually. I liked that they brought in everyone from all the other franchises. And that they basically just got to do whatever they want with retconning what had gone on before.
So the retcon is the part,
not necessarily retconning, but just like changing the end of the story.
Yeah. So did they change the end of that story, or did they change the end of all the stories?
how do multiverses work anyway? Like, why, don't
Yeah.
think about it. If you think about it that hard, it just stops making
Yes.
any sense
Does
anyway.
It's like time travel.
Does everyone in every universe forget his name? How does Happy think that he knows this person that is Spider-Man, but not know the person that is Spider-Man?
I think, again, you're thinking too hard about it. It's not meant to be thought about that hard. Clearly, the writers didn't do that much thinking, so you shouldn't either.
I want to say also that I had a good time watching it. I thought it was just as good as the other two in that franchise, which are better than most of the other ones leading up to that point of the Spider-Man. Having rewatched them all in succession before watching this movie. Not a joke.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, Andy, you probably appreciated as much as I did the like awkward scene of the three of them just hanging out, killing time on top of the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, it was wonderful.
that was like one of the best scenes of the movie.
That was wonderful. Especially when it was like, because we had just seen all those. And he's like, I fought an alien on the ground and in space. He's like, I'm lame. I only fought a guy in a rhinoceros.
Yeah.
Electricity guy rhinoceros suit.
Yeah. I do appreciate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man a little bit more now that they were like, and after that scene, I got really bitter and I just turned into like vindictive Spider-Man.
I stopped pulling my punches. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think they did both those guys justice in saying, no, they were good for their time, right? Like, and those Amazing Spider-Man movies, if someone at Sony had watched them and said, there's 45 minutes to cut from each of these movies, they would have been good. Like, not that they weren't okay, but they would have been good. Really good if they weren't 2.5 hours long. This movie, I really, I couldn't stop screaming into my text messages to some people while I was watching it. My God, just push the magic button and make this over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would have solved a lot of problems.
Sure could have.
Andy,
Yeah.
so you rewatched a bunch of Spider-Man movies before watching this one.
All of
Have
them.
you seen all of them recently, Michael, at all, or no?
I've probably just caught little bits and pieces here and there. So I actually haven't sat down and watched the Andrew Garfield one all the way through.
Okay, so that was going to be what I was about to ask too. I've never seen them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But I know the plots of them.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean,
Having
I
read about
know
them.
I know stuff that happens, right? Like generally
Really,
in them.
honestly, the best part of both of them put together is about the last 45 minutes of the second one is the best part of it, of the whole franchise for him. Because he really gets to actually act. And the fight scene with Electro that happens in those 45 minutes is actually really good. It's emotional and it's yeah. I don't know that you need to watch them if you know the gist of them.
Well, so I think the interesting thing about this is you, as a person who saw all of them, right, and had all the backstory, and I guess like Michael and I, as people who didn't, I think I still really enjoyed these movies.
Yeah,
This movie, right? Even without knowing the backstory, you didn't need it.
Sure, there's a little bit more emotional connection to like knowing what the characters went through because Andrew Garfield's character is pretty cagey about what happened to Gwen. And Toby's pretty cagey about what happened with MJ, his MJ, right? And so if you don't remember those things, it might be like, oh, okay, I don't really know or get what's going on here. There's also when Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man 3, saves you're 1, you're 2, you're 3. When he saves Jones Watson, MJ.
Yeah.
There is an exact cinematic cinematography perfect re-rendition happening of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 ending, where I don't know if you want the spoilers from this, but obviously he can't save Gwen.
And without even having seen that movie, I knew that that's what they were doing.
Yeah, but it was really tough to be like, when this is the thing I'm talking about with, like, he gets to act, right? He's just holding her there, and you can tell how hurt he is in that second.
Yeah.
That's Andrew Garfield's acting, and there's almost none of that in the first Amazing Spider-Man. And then when you get really towards the end of the second one, he's kind of let loose, and it's a lot better for it. There's just a lot of that just not allowed in 2.5 hours of plot that is convoluted from those movies. But getting to see him save somebody in the exact same shot, exactly the same, with the exact same stuff flying in front of the screen kind of thing, was kind of really cool to have watched back to back. It shows you they paid a lot of attention to make the movie. So, I mean, overall it was good. You know, the Goblin was going to betray you. Why didn't you just push the stupid button?
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Anyway, I'm sure Ken has a lot more to say about it, being the Spider-Man expert.
I don't know. I think you said it well early on here in this discussion, Andy, where you said that, despite, all these issues maybe that exist in this film, as by bringing the other Spider-Men in, I still liked this, and I thought it was as good as the other two in this series that they've made of Spider-Man films, right?
Easily. It might.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It might be better than the first one with Vulture. I know it's maybe too strong a statement, but I think it might be better than that one. And we watched this and Far From Home back to back, and I had a lot of fun watching Far From Home with my wife because she didn't know Mysterio was a villain.
Oh, that's fun.
She thought the whole time, she was getting so excited that Jake Gyllenhaal was going to be joining the Marvel Universe as the new Tony Stark.
Oh,
and I was like, oh God, this poor girl's heart.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Whenever
dagger's coming.
Oh man, because I knew, right? Like, Mysterio has never. There's been no version of Mysterio that was a good guy that I can remember off at all.
I think they did something like that in the Spider-Man cartoon one time, where he was like playing a good guy for a while, but it was a ruse because he's a bad guy.
Because that's what he does, right? He's a trickster and a magician and an illusionist, and there's like tons of different versions of him, but it's always him being a villain. And like, I was like, what is their connection here? Why is he going to be a villain in this one? It was like, oh, because he got betrayed by Tony Stark. And then they brought out all those people from the movies that were like background actors. I thought that was great.
It was so smart. Yeah,
it was like, really
this
smart.
was like random Stark worker number 2. You're like, oh man, he got screwed by Tony too.
Yeah. So I actually enjoyed that one quite a bit. And then it was very strange though. Haha, Doctor Strange. That you had 5 of the 6 Sinister Six in this No Way Home movie, but Mysterio's dead, so you can't have Sinister Six. You only have Sinister 5.
My understanding was at some point they had wanted to do a Sinister Six movie, right?
Yep.
But that was after, or they had wanted to do it before they made the Mysterio movie, but then felt like they couldn't do it, and so then they just did Mysterio. And then they were like, okay, let's do the Sinister Six movie. And then people were like, you idiots.
Dead.
No.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. They didn't pay that close of attention to their own lore, because at the end of it, the after credit scene with Venom, they said that only people that knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man were coming through the portal.
Mm-hmm.
But Venom, that Eddie Brock never is shown that he knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Right, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely never shown that, right?
Like, It's like, what? I've said this before. Those may not be good movies, but they sure are fun if you like to laugh a little bit.
I think the first Venom is pretty good.
I thought it was pretty funny.
I don't know about that second one.
I had a good time laughing at that one too. Not in like a I'm laughing because it's bad kind of way, but because they seem to really be enjoying themselves. You know what I mean?
It is fun on the like I'm just turning my brain off and having a fun time scale.
Yes.
I think the second one is lower on that scale than the first one.
No Way Home almost got to that point too, where it was like they're just not going to push the button because they can't push the button because the story says they can't push the button. Like, don't make a magic button if you're not going to use the magic button,
or don't introduce the magic button until later, like when you're going to use it.
Yeah,
right. Like seriously,
don't build the magic box out of plot armor.
Yeah,
it's literally Chekhov's gun. Like the trope, don't put that gun there if they're not going to use the gun. Just don't introduce the gun and then bring it in later, and it's fine.
Yeah. Well, No Way Home was still fun. I had a great time watching it, even though it was frustrating. And the scenes with like people being locked up in the cages next to each other had me laughing pretty good.
Oh, those were great.
So funny.
And the Doc Ock redemption was wonderful.
Alfred Molina.
Yes, he's so
what
good.
What a king, dude. What a king.
Yeah. Peter. Oh my God. You've grown up. I was like, oh my God. Yes.
So good.
It's just, we saw, speaking of my wife not knowing things about Mysterio, the other thing that happened was that Tobey Maguire walked through the portal and she said, who's that?
Whoops.
Have you seen the movie Pleasantville?
I said, we just watched those Spider-Man movies. She's like, that can't be Tobey Maguire. Like, those movies were 20 years ago. Yeah, it's Tobey Maguire.
Oh, she didn't recognize him because he was old?
He's 20 years older, yeah.
I thought the idea was that she couldn't recognize him because she didn't know he was Spider-Man. Oh, it's way funnier that she couldn't recognize him because he was old.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoops.
Him being old just reminded me of Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, dude, Into the Spider-Verse is gonna be. There's another one of those getting made.
It looks so good. Have
They're
you seen
it too?
Oh,
yeah.
you've stopped watching trailers.
I don't watch trailers.
It looks.
Michael, I'm so excited, dude. Yes, Into the Spider-Verse 2. Let's go.
I don't care what it is. This is why I'm not gonna watch the trailer, right? I don't care what it is.
It doesn't matter.
Watch it. Yeah, like the first one was good enough. Why would I not watch the second one?
Okay, and I think we had this. So now you've seen all the currently available Spider-Man movies,
correct?
Michael and Andrew. Well, I guess Andrew or Michael and I haven't seen the Garfield ones, but they weren't going to win this topic anyway. Is Into the Spider-Verse the best one?
Oh,
that's so hard.
So we're gonna have Ben on next week to answer for this. But
well, that sounds like you all can have that discussion. I might not be here, but I think I'm going to say yes. I think it is. I like it the best. I think
it's certainly better than the ones you haven't seen, because those are too long. And I think
I knew that, and so I didn't have to worry.
Well, so even the people that have seen them admit there's a whole subplot in both of those movies that is there for, I think, about 5 minutes of exposition could have fixed about between two movies, maybe an hour and a half worth of time. 5 minutes of exposition could have fixed it. Right? Like if a character had just walked on the screen and been like, so actually this person invented the spiders and this is why the DNA melded with your DNA. And it was like, oh, okay. But instead there was a good hour and a half subplot. Anyway, we don't need to focus on that anymore. Jesus. Yeah, I think so. If you're stacking up all the live actions versus that one animated movie, I don't know many of the other animated movies. There might be others out there, which is why Ken might be a good call on this one because he might know others that are better. But of the options given, I think I like Spider-Verse the best.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you both.
And it is sort of an unfair comparison in some ways because they can do so much crazy stuff with Into the Spider-Verse because they don't have to like pay actors, you know?
Well, and you can have Spider-Ham and you can do
exactly like stuff that wouldn't couldn't be done in live action, right? They can have the crazy scene where they're falling through the different worlds and all the crazy stuff going on in the background, right? Like, it's just such a great movie, and so it, like, maybe in some ways they couldn't ever produce a live action one like that.
It's also a movie with very little waste.
Oh, the whole movie is good. Like, right. I don't think there are parts of it that are pointless.
There are characters,
you couldn't take them out, otherwise the movie falls apart.
Yeah, but there are characters in there that you're like, I wonder whether they needed the uncle. Oh, well, actually, they did really need the uncle. You know,
yeah. They didn't put the uncle in just to have an uncle figure. No, turned out pretty important.
Yeah. And like the ability to kill off a Spider-Man because it's animated. I don't know.
Right.
It's
I did like the way that this one, that No Way Home, parallels that one. In the sense of, you know, in the one you have all the Spider-Mans being brought together compared to the other with all of the villains being pulled into one place.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish there was a better reason for all the villains to be pulled into one place.
Yeah. Well.
Can't win them all, man.
No, you can't. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Still a great movie. And both movies we're talking about now. Both great.
Still fun to watch, both of them. Yeah. You know, old things can be hard to go back to. Speaking of like that Tobey Maguire and all that, I tried out Kingdom Hearts on the PlayStation 4 version. Do you remember when games wouldn't let you play the game for about 45 to 50 minutes?
Yes, a hallmark of classic JRPGs.
Yeah.
It's really tough to sit through that again. Man. I don't particularly like it. And up-resing an old game is kind of... Maybe, I don't know, we could talk about this for a minute. I know there's a lot of different ways to remaster a game. They seem to chose to kind of just up-res what was there initially instead of redoing some of the art of it. So a lot of the characters have like insane eyes because they were rendered initially to have depth, like fake depth to them. And when they re-rendered them, they essentially just sort of have lines inside of them and then they're flat.
No.
Yeah. They have like green circle, black circle, green circle. So they look like they're absolutely insane. And then you can find places where they just maybe missed adding an up-res texture. Like Minnie Mouse was walking through a scene in the background of the scene and you can just see bitmapped eyes that are on top of her new character model. It's weird to go back to an old game remastered like that. And, you know, you get things like the backgrounds look great. The music sounds even better. But then there's like errors they don't fix. Like Cinderella is a brunette. I don't know.
It sure sounds like you're talking about some specific game.
Oh, didn't I say Kingdom Hearts out loud?
Yeah, you did.
I didn't hear it. Oh. What? Okay, we're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, yeah. I thought I said it out loud.
You did. You said it out loud. JJ just blocks it out whenever he hears Kingdom Hearts.
Literally just like Kingdom Hearts is just like...
JJ goes deaf when he hears the word Kingdom Hearts.
Tell me what the game is. Why won't we tell me the game? Stop talking. I can't hear it.
He's got a secret trigger. JJ, you're going to wake up in half an hour because I'm going to say Kingdom Hearts for so many minutes straight that... just keeps triggering him. He passes out.
This is like a
neuralizer.
Yeah.
Spoilers for BioShock 1 thing. This is the like, would you kindly moment here? Is that what's happening to me?
No, I was just
code activation phrase.
Well, it was weighing a little bit on my mind because I was like, this is like roughly the same era as that Spider-Man movie, and like going back to watch those original Spider-Man and going back to play Kingdom Hearts. Like, what am I doing? What's happening to me? Why am I going back in time? I don't know. Maybe.
Did you ever consider, Andy, that those original Kingdom Hearts games just weren't that good, and that's why you're noticing all the problems?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Oh boy. Speak to us of new, JJ, of new RPG drama. How's Xenoblade going?
It's a lot in that game, man. It's one of those Xenoblade games. It turns out, and you can play it for like 1,000,000 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been chugging away at it, playing a few hours here and there. I'm in chapter 4 for people that know anything about the game. I'm starting to really get into the class system. Although I'm starting to chafe against the inability to level the classes up beyond a certain point, where it's like now I'm just changing people into random classes because their experience is wasted otherwise.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running into problems in Champions of the Continent where I'm like, do I stop bringing this character because they've maxed out?
The
Yep.
answer is yes.
Yeah, but I don't have a good replacement.
Yeah. For new stuff that you're doing, you just hang on to them. For side
Yeah.
stuff, swap them out.
Do we need a
Yeah,
Champions of the Continent minute or?
Yeah, I'm got some. I think I'm at this point. I'm sort of like paused on all chapter 5. I think is where I am.
Oh, I'm on. I
Okay.
have to start all chapter 3 next. Trying to forge ahead for that last upgrade to the town, and then I'll probably pull back a little bit to just sort of dailies for a little while.
Well, I
Yeah, you
believe
can
that
take your time at that point.
I believe the last upgrade for the town is in chapter 4 or 5.
Oh, well, the nut
One of
farm
those two.
upgrade is the one that I need, right?
Oh
Yeah,
wait, no, sorry. I'm thinking of the sheep farm
The
upgrade.
sheep
Oh.
farm upgrade is in 5.
Okay.
The sheep don't seem consequential much.
Seems just
Am I
like
missing
extra
something?
money, right?
No, they drop one of 2 resources randomly. One of which you can just sell for money. One of which you can sell for shards, like the other resources in Nameless Town.
Oh, so you'll need them for some future upgrade, I'm sure.
No, I think this one you can just sell.
Yeah, they only show up on the sell screen, but it's like 5 shards. It's like the equivalent of like the lowest level one. So you get up to 15 more at the upgraded sheep farm, I think.
If they even drop them. Yeah.
Right, and it's random. Just like the nuts being good is random or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've already cracked 1,000,000 leaves at this point, and I buy everything in sight.
You'll get to 2 quickly, don't worry.
You'll get to 20 pretty fast, don't worry.
Michael, it caps out at 99,999,999. Just so you know.
I'm well aware.
And it doesn't matter because you're just going to replace that money with more money. There's like no way not to earn it, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I'm enjoying the game. I'm getting actually a really, really good chuckle out of a lot of the newer content or the later content when a lot of people start referring to me as like, I can't believe you care so much, Hateful Eight.
What a name.
I'm having a lot of good moments too.
Or like the band name gets used and I'm like, it's really funny that it says Hateful Eight on the screen with what you just told me. Have either of you run into Shizu Cats the other day was talking about paying rupees to do hunts? Have either of you run into that? I don't see that as an option.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it is a thing you can do. I know it's there. I haven't gone out and actually found it because it's not worth it.
Oh, okay. Huh. I was thinking maybe it might be worth it to try and upgrade people.
No, the odds of the seals that you need dropping are so low that it's not worth spending the rubies on.
Yeah. Well, I have to say one last thing. We got a text message of a friend of the pod that listened to the food thing last week. I'm going to leave you guys on the idea that sometimes we just have to do better and own up to our mistakes and say we will get it right next time. Not one of us mentioned hot sauce. That's the greatest invention.
Yeah, we goofed clearly. That's like so on brand for us too,
Yep.
man.
Yeah, but I still think I like my answer.
I don't think it degrades any of our answers to know that there was another answer that we should have
Sure.
had as a team.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that.
You gotta look out for the brand sometimes, you know, guys.
That's true. Gotta always be branding. Always
They
be
say
always be capsaicin. ABC.
Oh no.
Ow.
Pain.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, any other food stuff we missed, go ahead. Just send it in.
Yeah, folks want to send that stuff in, you can send it to podcast@weweregamers.com. We're interested because I think there's got to be more. I know hot sauce is like so on brand for us, but like there's got to be more we didn't
Stuff
think
we
of. So
didn't
send
think
those
of, you know. Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, podcast@weweregamers.com there. Find us on social media at weweregamers, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Hit that subscribe on that YouTube. That'll really help us out. And the little bell will tell you when the new videos come out.